Hi, I'm Chris. I'm a teacher at English Today. I'm from America, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in one of my classes.
Chris, can you tell me about some of your experience in teaching?
Well, I've been teaching for about 15 years, all over the world. Since I've been in Indonesia, I've taught at Wall Street English as both a teacher and the assistant service manager. I was the director of studies at a school, language school in Yogyakarta, and I've been teaching at English Today for about a year now.
So is learning legal English useful for even people who are not lawyers?
Well, I think it is. Even if you're not a lawyer, you're still interacting with the law, and especially legal documents. It's been my experience that because I interact with many business people, they're constantly coming in contact with terms they don't understand, vocabulary, and so special uses of English that you wouldn't necessarily learn in a normal English course or a normal business English course.
Can you give me an example of where legal English uses some special terminology?
Well, we have a special term even. We call it legalese. It's its own special language. We use Latin sometimes, and sometimes we use a word that means something outside of law, but something special within law. For example, the word consideration. I think pretty much anybody knows what consideration means, caring about other people, etc. But in the legal context, it has the meaning of giving value and is a necessary part of any legal contract. And I think that's probably one of many examples of how a term can mean one thing in one place and a completely different thing in legal English.
So why might legal English be important to a lawyer who only practices law in Indonesia?
Well, I think the primary reason that it's important is that as Indonesia emerges on the global stage, it's interacting more with foreign countries and foreign entities. In the business context, especially, most of the contracts are going to be written in English. If it's with an American company or an Australian company, Malaysian company even, will use English as the language of the agreement. Also, foreign law is having a greater influence on domestic Indonesian law. So somebody who's learning about Indonesian law is still going to learn also about international law, using academic journals that are written in English and other resources that are only in English, and a knowledge of legal English will allow them to practice in that environment and give them a definite advantage over their fellow attorneys who don't have those English skills.
Chris, what's the fastest way to learn English?
The fastest way to learn English? Well, I get that question a lot. While there's no easy way to learn English, I think the fastest way to learn English is to speak English a lot, to immerse yourself in it, to not only come to English classes, but to be constantly practicing English, whether it's watching English movies, reading English television, and then using the classes as a context for truly understanding what you've been immersed in, perfecting your grammar, etc. But the quickest way, the fastest path, is to truly, completely immerse yourself in English to whatever extent possible.
You mentioned reading English TV. You mean like using subtitles?
I guess I meant two separate things, but as we watch a movie in English, I always recommend 3 steps maybe. First step, watch it with Indonesian subtitles. The second, watch it with English subtitles, and then your ultimate goal is to watch a movie without any subtitles at all.
Are games valuable in learning a serious subject, say like business English?
Well, of course, we all love to play games and have an entertaining class. I think it's important for a couple of reasons. First, a lot of my students don't speak English outside of the class, and it's a good way to help them warm up and transition from their native language into a total English environment. It lowers the stress a lot. Also, I think it provides a greater opportunity for the students to interact among the groups that they might not normally interact with. And so it provides both of those valuable lessons, and it makes people enjoy the class more, of course.
So which one is easier, IELTS or TOEFL IBT?
Well, I get that question a lot. People want the easier path, and I say, I think it depends on what your strengths are. So for example, on the TOEFL IBT test, the reading is a little bit easier and the listening is a little bit easier, but the speaking and the writing are significantly more difficult. So just on the IELTS test, the reading and the listening are very difficult, but the writing and the speaking especially, is much more natural than on the IBT test. That being said, it's more a matter of what your strengths are rather than what the test is inherently difficult. So neither one is necessarily more difficult as a whole, but it may be one or maybe more difficult for one person than a different type of person.
What is IBT?
Internet-based test. So it's different than the paper-based TOEFL, which is very standard here in Indonesia, multiple choice. TOEFL IBT still has all 4 disciplines, reading, listening, speaking, and writing. So it really tests your ability to perform in an academic environment.